And we are here. We are live. Scott Cole, Nick Mizesko hanging out here. I don't know. It's definitely, I don't know. Championship Tuesday? I don't know. We're the day after the championship. I thoroughly enjoyed March Madness, I'll have to say. We will get into that Kansas game. We will talk about Tiger Woods. Finally, kind of for the first time ever, Nick, we have a kind of more on the quiet side NFL stuff. Pete Carroll made some news. We had some trades between the Saints and the Eagles, but compared to previous weeks, I would say an overall quiet week in the NFL.
Yeah, it's like the Shield decided to take a break for a week. We've had a lot going on. We're just gonna take a week off. Obviously, we're about to ramp up. NFL draft just around the corner. A little bit of a quiet time. Yeah, Pete Carroll's making noise out there, but it's nice to let the other sports have a little shine, especially NBA playoffs coming up. We just finished March Madness. Obviously, we're gonna get into that. It's nice in the NFL to give us a little break today.
Yeah, we needed it. I was on the road. I went to Vegas and Atlanta, did a little UFC-ish type event. And then, some NBA stuff. And you were down in New Orleans, right? Chopping it up down there?
Did a day in worked a gig out in Dallas for WrestleMania, and then flew over to New Orleans and had a little time over at the Final Four and in the Big Easy, and then quickly got on a plane and headed back home because
we must have just missed each other, because
I think we were
Dallas
at the same
is
airport.
My home.
Yo, I'm not kidding, man. I was at the DFW. Oh, actually, I flew out of Love Field because I had Southwest back home. But I was at Love Field for no joke 6 hours because the gig ended at like 2:00 in the afternoon and my flight was at like 7:30, and I was like, I don't have anywhere to go and I have a bunch of luggage, so I guess I'm.
What day was this? Yesterday?
That was on Friday. I was on Friday. I was at Love Field forever. And I was just like, I guess I'm going to go to the airport. And I literally got to the airport and slept on the floor of the airport for like an hour. And I was like, still got 4 hours to go. What a day.
Jeez. Next time, at least see what I'm doing, because I'm not too far from the Love. I don't partake in the Southwest. I've only done that a few times, but as Scott, a son of an American Airlines pilot, it's very hard.
See, Scott, you and I, we're on the same page here, because here's the thing. I've flown Delta my whole life. In Phoenix, I fly American. I don't like open seating. God bless everybody who loves Southwest, but yeah, I'm out on Southwest.
I hate to say it. I've gotten to the point now where, like, if there's not a chance at me sitting in first class, I get I'm a little bougie like that now. I'm not trying to be,
but
yeah. I sort of.
Spirit Airlines is not taking my money.
No. None of that's happening. As always, we're taking your questions and your comments in the chat. It's good to see some familiar faces already. We're here every Tuesday from 12-ish to about 30-45 minutes of talking. We've gone as long as 90 minutes. We've never gone back to the 30-minute mark. That's our goal, because we feel like if we can do 30 minutes, then we can do more shows, and more shows equals good things. And but I'm telling you what, halftime, first of all, slow start for UNC. Kansas comes out, makes the first 7 points or so. UNC finally gets going. They end up with a crazy run. I mean, they are up 15 at the half. They were up as many as 16. But the crazy thing is, you and I both agree. We blinked, and all of a sudden, Kansas was back in the ballgame.
Yeah, I mean, I think the talent of Kansas was able to take over in the second half. They were able to make, again, it sounds obvious, but they were able to make a couple more shots. In the first half, they missed some bunnies. They definitely weren't shooting particularly well. And the defensive pressure, I think that is what changed the game, is in the second half, Kansas really ramped up the defense. They clamped down, stopped giving up some of those open shots to North Carolina shooters. And that really got them back in the game. And then at the point at which you have the talent that Kansas has and the depth that Kansas has, I think at that point, you heard North Carolina say, they were sitting there and saying, we're just not as deep as they are. And at the end of the day, they wore us down and were able with that defensive pressure to make us uncomfortable. It was, Scott, it's always nice when a championship game lives up to the championship. The entire championship weekend culminates with a really good game. And it really treated everybody watching at home, everybody watching the stadium too, what I think was a very, very good basketball game.
If Villanova would have had their superstar, I think it would have been one of the best Final Fours ever, right?
Yes, agreed.
We talked about it last week on the show, the first time that we had multiple championship winners. Everybody, all four of the Final Four had won multiple championships in the history of their school. They just did not have enough firepower against Kansas in that semifinal. And then the Duke UNC. I mean, come on, that could have been the final itself. And I'm not I've never been a huge Coach K fan. I grew up in the ACC. Went to a lot of ACC tournaments as a kid and a teenager, and then an adult. And I thought he showed a lot of class. The kid's kind of the way he handled everything. He certainly gained a lot of respect from me once he started working with the USA basketball program.
Sure.
But back to this game here, that little sidestep three from Remy Martin with about 2 and change to go, that sort of felt like, uh-oh, UNC. I don't think you're going to make a comeback.
Yeah, and it's a shame because you do play the what if games, especially in games that are close like that. And for me, the what if is, what if Armando Bacot was healthy coming in? He didn't quite have the jump. He fought through that ankle injury. And then what if he doesn't roll his ankle again with a minute left? Because, I mean, credit to Bill Self in Kansas. They went down the court right there and said, we're feeding it in the post because Brady Manick cannot size up with our big guys. And they were able to extend it to 3. And once you have a 3-point lead with 20 seconds left, like that all of a sudden puts all the pressure on the other team. So I just, you play the what if game, a ton of credit to Bacot for fighting through that injury. But, it was one of those that, like, you talk about coaches who became more likable. Man, I didn't know a ton about Hubert Davis. Obviously, as a Big Ten guy, I watch a lot of Big Ten basketball, but Hubert Davis, the way he handled himself in interviews, the way he took this 8-seed North Carolina team, which early in the season, Scott, this looked like a team that was in free fall, to get him to the national title game. I mean,
terrible.
He deserves all the credit in the world for keeping that team together and getting them not only through a season to make the tournament, but then to make it to the national championship.
Well, some of it was, and I know Love's catching a lot of heat here for the Tar Heels and maybe the way he didn't play. But they would not even been anywhere close to be in the Final Four, let alone the championship game without Love. And just happens sometimes, right? For shooters, it just doesn't fall. I remember Anthony Davis had one of the worst offensive performances ever when Kentucky won the title for Calipari, where he just had 2 points. Now he had over 9,000 blocks and rebounds in that game. And, so this is second title for Bill Self. Remember, they had a comeback in 2008. Speaking of Calipari, beat John Calipari's Memphis Tigers with the Derrick Rose testing scores debacle of 2008. But they were up 8 points with 2:12 to go. And all the way back, here comes Mario Chalmers. He hits the 3. That sends it overtime. Kansas ended up winning kind of handily in overtime. So 2 titles now for Bill Self, both in comeback fashion.
Yeah, I mean, it speaks to how good of a coach Bill Self is. And I think when we talk about the great coaches in college basketball, I don't know why Bill Self's name kind of gets left out a little bit. I mean, it has been 14 years since he won a title. But here's what's interesting to me, Scott, and I don't know how you feel about this. As somebody who's a Big Ten guy, whose name is always brought up, it's always Tom Izzo. Tom Izzo, what a legendary coach. Tom Izzo has one less title than Bill Self does, and he won that back in 2001. I think it's always interesting that we talk about great coaches. You hear Krzyzewski.
Tell me the guy's name. I can see the guy's face. Point guard.
Mateen Cleaves?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, the Mateen Cleaves Mo Pete team. I mean, and again, it's no knock on Izzo, but I find it interesting when we talk about the great coaches in the landscape of college basketball. Izzo's name seems to come up way more than Bill Self's. I know Izzo has made a lot of Final Fours, but just making it to the Final Four is great. But if you don't win the title at that point, I think he's like 1-4 in all time making it to Final Fours. Like at that point, it surprised me that Self doesn't get more credit. By the way, we talked about the shooting of Caleb Love. Let me tell you, he had 5 games in the tournament. 5 points against Baylor, 30 against UCLA, 14 against St. Peter's, 28 against Duke, 13 against. He is who we thought he was. Okay, shout out to the late great Dennis Green. Yeah, like he's a shooter who is going to be a little inconsistent. He shot 36% on the year. Like he is what he is. If he's on fire, that North Carolina team is hard to beat. When he's not, they have to find secondary scoring. And a team that relies that much on the starters and doesn't have a lot of bench scoring, it's amazing that they made it as far as they did.
Well, you kind of wondered what that final play was drawn up for. You saw the big fella trip in the middle of the lane.
What happened over there? Because that's also where Bacot slipped.
Yeah, and that could have been the play. Maybe they're going to launch it over to the corner, and he was going to hit a shot, or who knows. I thought they got a good enough look, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But just wasn't online. Had the distance, just wasn't online.
And they got very lucky to even have a chance at the shot, because that stepping out of bounds with 4 seconds left off the inbounds. I mean, talk about one of those plays that we could have been looking back as like one of the biggest blunders in sports history if North Carolina hits that 3 and gets it overtime.
Well, we taught it.
If they
Crazy
hit that
Sticks
3, North
was
Carolina's
talking
not
about
losing.
it, Nick, where, hey, if Harris doesn't step out of bounds, maybe they cover the spread. So some people lost a little bit in Vegas on that just particular play.
Yeah, I mean, again, just a wild moment, but like credit to Bill Self, because you saw the reaction right afterwards. Like, it happened, but he huddled the team together while they were reviewing, really calmed everyone down and said, listen, we're still in a great spot. 4 seconds left. They got fortunate with Manic slipping, but I thought they got a good look. It was just one of those that Kansas's defensive pressure in the second half, they weren't getting the open looks they were getting in the first half. And because of that, I mean, that's why they won the game. It has nothing to do with 4 seconds left and did they get a good enough shot and did Baycott play. Like, it was the defense from Kansas and their scorers really turned that game around for them.
It was a heck of a second half. There's no question about it. It was really a great March Madness all the way around, right? You had your Cinderellas, you had some upsets, and all that kind of stuff went down. Certainly my bracket got wrecked.
Everyone's did. I think I had one Final Four team. Like, I had Duke in the Final Four, but like, I mean, you talk about, I don't know if they were letdowns. I think there were some great performances from underseeded teams, but like teams like Tennessee, everybody was high on. Auburn, everybody sort of thought was going to make a nice run. I mean, it's one of those, it's like there were a lot of teams that people were expecting to make deep runs. And that's the joy of the NCAA tournament, isn't it? Is that you can't take a night off because your tournament's over in single elimination play.
Yeah, and so a tip of the cap, where does that put Bill Self among coaches, right? So 16 coaches have won multiple championships in men's basketball in the NCAA. That's a long time to be playing college basketball. There's no question about it. So where do you put him? We kind of had our Mount Rushmore last week. He wouldn't be anywhere close on that. Probably would not be in my top 10. I don't know. I'd have to rethink that, but he's certainly got to be in the discussion, certainly among modern coaches.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Again, over the Pantheon, man, that's going to require a lot more research than I have to come up with right now. But among modern coaches, I mean, he is certainly a top 10 modern coach. You certainly put him with guys, some of those guys with 1 tournament wins, the Jay Wrights, the Tom Izzos. Listen, I think Bill Self's a great coach. I mean, and let's not forget, even before he was at Kansas, he's a really good coach over at Illinois, and led some really nice teams.
Good teams.
The D. Williams squad, like this is a very good Bill Self. Bill Self's a very good coach, so I think he's probably, I mean, off the top of my head, in and around the 10 all time. Probably a little lower for me. I'm probably in the 12-13 range, but I mean, for me, no doubt, top 16. I mean, I think to win multiple NCAA titles is such a hard accomplishment, and for something that's been going on for so long, to think that only 16 coaches have been able to do it is just a wild stat.
I thought it was a very satisfying season. I know a lot of people would have liked to seen UNC win. Roy Williams certainly would have wanted to see UNC win, but hey, those are two coaches that were kind of under the Roy Williams coaching tree. Mm-hmm. Certainly, when you talk about Hubert Davis, a little newer to the scene than Bill Self is, but at least they got someone at UNC that, they talk about the Michigan man. He's certainly a UNC guy that they can build around. It's just kind of felt like he got outcoached in the second half. No doubt the team got outplayed, but he got outcoached by Bill Self in that second half.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I think for me, watching that second half, I think it was less outcoached. I think it was more North Carolina played above their weight class for most of that tournament. I think they had a lot of magic. I think, again, Baycott made that team run. You had some great performances from Love, from Leaky Black, but I think at the end of the day, they were always punching above their weight class. They got really hot in that first half, were able to make some shots and build that lead. But I think in the second half, the talent of Kansas really stood out. And that Kansas team, it should not be overlooked at how talented that Kansas team is. They've got at least 3 or 4 guys that are going to make some noise in the NBA, especially Ochai Agbaji, who's going to be a very good NBA player. But this is the fun part about college basketball too, Scott, is that like season's over, and with how the transfer portal works and NBA, everybody goes early in the NBA. I saw it with Ohio State. I mean, EJ Liddell, we knew was going to go, but Malachi Branham, who was the Big Ten Freshman of the Year, yeah, he's out of there. Like, these teams change so much year to year that it will be interesting as we get towards the beginning of basketball season next year in October, November, where these two teams stand out. Did Kansas reload a little bit? North Carolina, they have a lot of youth on there, but how much of that youth sticks around and tries to run it back?
You ask questions in the chat, we'll feature them. Comments as well if we enjoy them. Sometimes we'll talk about your topics. We certainly have done that over the last couple of weeks. Appreciate you being here. We're here every Tuesday around 1 p.m.-ish Eastern time.
Early afternoon.
We try to do the best we can. Yeah. Of course, we're out there on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. Hello, our folks out there.
One person. How you doing?
Yeah, how you doing today?
How you doing?
Glad to have you here. Let's shift gears because this is like the number one topic right now. We talked about how it was a light week in the NFL. A few trades here and there, a couple moves, Pete Carroll getting whatever. But Tiger Woods, and this is why we were a little late coming on to the program live today. Big shout out to those listening to the podcast and watching the VODs back. But Tiger Woods, around noon Eastern time, had a press conference there in Augusta. They suspended play in the practice round because of weather coming through. But Tiger, the breaking news says of right now, he's played about 27 holes over the last couple of days, some of them on the par 3 course with his son Charlie. Says as of right now, he plans to play in the Masters, says he feels good. And this crazy thing is, on top of it, he doesn't play in tournaments unless he thinks he can win. Nick, he thinks he can win this Masters.
I mean, that's Tiger for you. I mean, Tiger could be on his deathbed and he think he could win a tournament. I mean, that is the confidence of somebody who's done it so many times. And how many times has he proved us wrong? I mean, look back to his last major win. Nobody thought he was to win that one, and he was able to pull out the victory. Listen, I have no doubt that I think he in his head he thinks he can win. What we're talking, he's played one competitive tournament, and that was the Pro-Am with Charlie. And even then he didn't look right. It was still early in his rehab from the car accident. And I think it's going to be interesting to watch. What I'm concerned about is, I don't want to say he's going to tarnish his legacy. Obviously, I mean, he's the greatest golfer of all time.
No, this isn't Jordan with the Wizards. Exactly. This isn't Joe Montana with the Chiefs.
I think it is, but it's one of those that, like, sort of are lasting, at least for me. One of my lasting images of Tiger Woods is him, winning a tournament in 2019, and that was amazing. It would be sad to me to see a Tiger Woods out there, because he talked about early in his rehab how hard it was for him to swing hard because there was so much bone damage, like that velocity wasn't there, so he's swinging easier. To me, it will be sad if we're seeing a Tiger Woods that is half of the Tiger Woods that we're seeing. This isn't, him teeing it up on the senior tour when he's 65 and obviously getting old. This is somebody who still looks young.
Which he would dominate.
Which he would absolutely. I mean, we saw Phil Mickelson win, I think, 3 of his first 4 starts on the senior tour and won them handily. That's where I'm at, is like, I think I'm excited to see if he can, and Lord knows if he is
anywhere. Can't withdraw. He cannot, not on the course, right? Exactly. If you hear overnight, okay, too much swelling, he can't go on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. That's okay. I'm with you. You don't want to see the last image of him not being able to continue or something like that, or after a shot. I think
you don't want to see that US Open that US Open when he tore his ACL. Like, I don't want to see
down. Yeah, against Rocco. So, which was crazy that he was right there in that one. So, 25 years has gone by since he won his first Masters there at Augusta. And I don't know if you've had the pleasure to be there, but it is a spiritual experience. I bring up the only braggadocious thing that I went there because it's not a municipal course. It's not even a TPC as far as the hills and the valleys. He talked about the only flat shots, where you'll have a flat lie is the T-box. 18 tee boxes. That's it. So every shot is going to be uncomfortable. I think one of the interesting things here is him, that's kind of caught our eye in the practice round, is no Nike shoes. He's going with the FootJoys with metal spikes because I think just kind of the hardware that he has and the orthopedics that go along with it don't fit a sneaker type golf shoe.
Yeah, I was able to back in 2017. I got one of the lottery tickets to go to the Masters. I got to take my dad to Thursday at the Masters, which was, a bucket list thing he never thought he would get to do. And
now you're talking.
I mean, I think spiritual is the correct word. I remember us just sitting there. And again, the best part about Augusta, there are no cell phones. You cannot sit there and take pictures. It is phones away.
I had mine, but I get it.
Yeah, but yeah, yeah. But at the end of the day, like I remember just sitting there. We ended up parking it on like 7 green, and it was just, it was an unbelievable 12-hour day. I got the pimento cheese sandwich. I got the egg salad sandwich.
For $1.
It was amazing. It really is. If you get an opportunity, I tell people this all the time, like golf fan or not, if you get the opportunity to go, take the opportunity. But
any day that you can get in. And to be honest, some of the practice rounds I've enjoyed even more than a Sunday.
I want to go to a Wednesday. I want to go to a Wednesday. I want to see par 3 contest. That's what I want to see.
So, there's something about when you're leaving the village, like, okay, so you're walking through the village where the pro shop is and all that kind of stuff and all food. That first step onto the grass is like a field of dreams kind of moment, like coming out of the cornfields. But circle it back around. This is not an easy course to walk, right?
No.
And that's some of the issues.
And TV doesn't do it justice. Like it was wild to me when I walked in there, like how much contour this is on this course. These fairways look flat. They are all on a grade, and it's wild to me.
Yeah, the amount of undulation, my parents grew up in Augusta. So, it's as much as part of our family watching the Masters as my dad watches Andy Griffith 9 times a day. At home, but that's the concern, right? And that's part of, golf always took we saw John Daly out there all the time, right? There's certain people that are maybe my size that are out there laboring around the course. Certainly Tiger Woods isn't one of them. And even Tiger Woods at one point, I think John Daly got onto him about working out. This is back in like the late 90s or something. And Tiger just said, hey, if I had your natural ability, I wouldn't work out. So how about that nod from Tiger to John Daly? But
by the way, if you haven't seen the 30 for 30 on John Daly,
that's what I'm talking about.
Oh my, that
Calipari one's good too. Amazing. That one came out recently. Any 30
Ricky
for 30.
Williams is like I talk about a series that like started and took off. I think I've watched most of it at this point. Like, and they're all fantastic. So just quick.
Even if you're not a sports fan, I think they're so captivating. So this brings us to one of the biggest topics I want to bring up. First of all, how do you think he's going to do, and do you think he's going to finish? I asked the same question out there to you folks in chat. How do you think Tiger's going to do? I'm not saying Tiger versus the field. I think at this point, for him to make the cut is an achievement. And then on top of that, if he's able to finish all 72 holes, and if he was in contention, good grief, that might break the internet.
Yeah, again, it will be. I think we will know how Tiger is going to do within the first 9 holes. I think how we see him handle those first 9 holes. I think the biggest challenge for Tiger is going to be, this is somebody who knows this course so well. He's played it so many times, but he's going to have to play this course differently, knowing he can't overpower it. And I think that's going to be interesting to watch how his finesse game works. I think, I don't think Tiger would be going out there if he didn't think he could make the cut / win. So I think he will make the cut. I think he will get to the weekend. I don't think he's going to be in contention. I think there are just too many good players that can, really take strokes off this course. But I think, obviously the two of us here, along with most of the world at this point, is hoping he is in contention. I think what's interesting is growing up and watching golf, I was a Phil guy. I was not a Tiger Woods fan. I was always
now we're getting down to the nitty gritty.
Well, because I loved the, especially up till 2004, the guy who hadn't won the major yet. And then, the big win in 04, the leap on the green. I've always been a Phil Mickelson guy. And so because of that, I've never really liked Tiger. It's to a point of, being a Jazz fan with Michael Jordan. I appreciate him, but I don't like him. But I do find it interesting over the last about 10 years, watching, 35 plus year old Tiger Woods having a little more fun out there, being a little more human. he has become so incredibly likable, and
He's no
that
longer
has
the
been
machine,
fascinating.
right?
Exactly, and I find that fascinating. Is that like, watching his interactions with like Kevin Na and imitating his walking the ball into the cup. Tiger would not have done that 20 years ago, but I find it interesting. So I find myself rooting for him, and I think golf is rooting for him.
Yeah, I mean, I think his father taught him to so compartmentalize.
Compartmentalize. I got you.
Compartmentalize.
Yes,
that's the word I'm looking for. Even the Navy SEAL stuff and all the kind of stuff I think that's actually going to play in his favor.
sure.
And by the way, Paul on YouTube says he thinks he's going to finish in the top 10 for the weekend.
Hey, if that happens,
it would be nuts.
Here's what I think. If he's in the top 10 on the weekend, you're going to see the most watched Masters weekend in history. If Tiger Woods is able to...
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Last time he did it, last time he won it, that was pretty nuts, right?
True.
Which I think is a good segue into... Well, first of all, before I get there, I think it's interesting that now he has to try to overcome the course that Tiger proofed him. Yeah. You know what I mean? So now he's like, oh, man, I wish this course was playing back and it was in 99.
Can I play the 2001 Augusta, please?
Where he can hit, some irons off the tee or a 3-wood, 5-wood. That ain't going to cut it. He's going to have to be crafty. And I think even for, he talked about a little bit of this in his press conference that, hey, hitting those fairways is going to be very important to his footing, the type of lie, what that does to his back on some swings. I mean, we might see Tiger Woods laying up this weekend. Mm-hmm. Is Tiger Woods the most important athlete to any sport? Can golf survive? Certainly golf is different without Tiger. Do you see anybody else in the sports world, past or present, that even compares to the amount of buzz you get when just one person says they might play?
No, because I think the interesting thing about golf is because it's such an individual sport. Mm-hmm. I think, again, even in, Jordan era basketball, there were other teams. And I think that the thing is, basketball and football and hockey and all these other sports, they're so location based. I root for this team because I'm from Cleveland. It's not necessarily from that person. And then there are people who root for LeBron because he's a LeBron fan. But golf, there is no like, I'm rooting for Tiger because I was from Hawaii. Like you root for Tiger because he's Tiger. You root for Phil because he's Phil. And I think the thing that, the PGA has struggled with over the last 15 years is finding that next big star. I mean, who are the people that have drawn the most over the last 15 years? It's Tiger Woods and it's Phil Mickelson winning at the age of 50. I mean, Unfortunately, the guys who are those young stars, the Bubba Watsons, the Jordan Spieths, like nobody has been able to really hold on. They've had these moments. They've had these like 18-month periods. Rory McIlroy was unbeatable for 18 months. And they sort of fall off. And now unfortunately, like the guys who are at the top, like let's call a spade a spade. Dustin Johnson, not the most personable human being in the world. Brooks Koepka makes Dustin Johnson look like Mr. Rogers. He's very much not the most personal. Bryson DeChambeau is part Hulk and is not the most personable. Like these guys just don't connect with the fans as well. And even Tiger, who was that robot, did it while winning at an unprecedented pace. So you rooted for him or rooted against it. None of these guys are doing that. So I think even Tiger at his age right now, I mean, again, apart from like Michael Phelps for swimming, but swimming wasn't on every weekend. Like there weren't 4 majors of swimming we were watching on ESPN. I think Tiger is Tiger. Even, you look at tennis players like Serena Williams is great, but there was always Venus. And then after Venus, it was Maria Sharapova, Roger Federer or Pete Sampras. There's always somebody else out there. Golf, it's always been Tiger.
I think a couple things. I think Jordan's one of them, Tiger and Serena. That's the top 3 that comes to my mind. And some of it is because nowadays we're so saturated and we do kind of watch sports even on a niche level, right? Where it's like, just because LeBron's playing doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to watch. I think when
LeBron might not be playing much after this week.
I think they need to take a team trip to wherever they need to go. They're done. So we've covered that enough. We could talk about that many times. I think,
but he's not making the playoffs.
If we have another light NFL week, we might come in and talk a little Anthony Davis injuries and all that kind of stuff. But I think Tiger's the leader in the clubhouse when it comes to this topic because
he is.
Just the thought. There was some buzz in 94, 95 when it's like Jordan's coming back. Like, that was crazy. Like, the minute Jordan said he's coming back, like, Madison Square Garden immediately sold out. Bulls next, right?
Yeah.
That's the last time I remember something like this, just based on hype. People getting so excited to see one event. And that was just a regular season game. I think some of this is Tiger Woods plus the Masters, which might be, besides the Super Bowl, maybe the best event in sports. I mean, Daytona 500, Masters, Super Bowl. Those are kind of the can't miss events for really anybody that doesn't even care about sports. I mean, people are going to watch the Masters this weekend just because it's relaxing. It's beautiful. Like the whole scene.
Yeah. I was wondering if was there a time where a guy like Dale Earnhardt was enough of a draw to get people, like if Dale Earnhardt, if he's running at Daytona's selling out. But even then, I mean, again, there were so many. I mean, NASCAR is such a divided, you root for your guy, your dad rooted for this guy, so you're rooting for Jeff Burton or whoever it is. There's not a lot of crossover. I think Tiger Woods is like as much of a cross. Like the only thing I can think of, and it's a little outside the box, but to me, like we're talking like Hulk Hogan. We're talking like that level of cross
Snoop
sport.
Dogg.
Yeah, like whoever, like it is
perfect halftime show, right? For everybody that's 40.
Yeah,
it's like,
right.
This is awesome.
Yeah, shout out to Dr. Dre.
Yeah, also people that were 16 were like, hey, yes, I
remember
this
song. This song came out when I was born, and I got sad, and I was sad inside. That's all I can think of is WWE super, like Hulk Hogan. Whether you were a wrestling fan or not, you were probably tuning into something he was doing. That's Tiger Woods. Is he's getting golf fans and not golf fans are going to watch the Masters.
Well, WrestleMania trying to capture some of that, this past weekend with Stone Cold Steve Austin. Certainly, that piqued more of my interest, right?
Awesome weekend.
I'm like, what, Stone Cold?
Hello?
I don't have to keep up with any storylines or anything. Insert them immediately, right?
He finally got his retirement match, and that was great because obviously he walked away after the neck injury. It was, I mean, again, as somebody who watched WrestleMania
for the Texas Rattlesnake.
I mean, it was legit. It was a nostalgia pop, but for a 2-night show, which by the way, shout out to WWE for splitting up WrestleMania into 2 nights instead of an 8-hour marathon.
Yeah.
They
need to do that more often.
Top 5 or 6 WrestleManias of all time.
Because I wouldn't have been able to check it out if it wasn't that way.
Yeah, so, exactly.
Big shout out to 2K for inviting me out there to be able to see everything. That was cool. Speaking of 2K, that's what I got going on tonight. The opening of the NBA 2K League. If you guys follow esports, that's a pretty fun thing to watch. Besides the Masters, man, what else are you looking forward to coming up before the next show?
Well, tonight I get to go watch the Phoenix Suns take on the Los Angeles Lakers. So.
Wow. Okay.
It's cool, I guess.
Well, get your Malik Monk jersey now.
Yeah, I guess. We're headed. I mean, obviously, I'll be keeping my eye on the Masters this weekend. I'm heading out to Houston actually for the first time this weekend. We're meeting up with Ryan Hollins out there and going to go check out the Rockets finale. Boy, talk about a team that I find very fun to watch. Jalen Green is an absolute pogo stick, and I'm excited to head out there. But
the entire sports world of Houston, except for college, it's in turmoil. It's in turmoil down there.
Oh, the Texans are okay. Yeah, no, I paid the. Okay,
I mean, you basically got 2 sorry programs, and then you got the Astros are cheaters.
Yeah,
so,
no, it's great. It sounds like a fun city. I'm very excited, but for me, it's going to be.
But the food, basketball, sure. Sign me up.
Can't come. I mean, listen, it's going to be. It's Masters weekend, man. It's one of legit my favorite weekends of the year, and if we can get Tiger Woods in contention on Saturday and Sunday, we're in there. It's going to be awesome.
We appreciate everybody hanging out with us. We are on podcasts. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, just search Scott Cole and Nick Mizesko. That's the easiest way to find us. And of course, we'll be here every Tuesday around 1 p.m. Eastern time. Tell your friends. Thanks for getting involved in the show. And hey, yeah, as Paul says, best
weekend ever. Yeah.
Hey, we like the addition of some YouTube traffic and some YouTube talking today. We'll come back next week. We'll try to do it all over again. We appreciate y'all, and we'll see you soon right here on the show.